because I don't need to see my eyes.
All right, here we are, and we are live on Facebook. Always exciting. I'm here, everybody, with Happy Food Chef Robin Joy. Robin, it's always a joy to talk to you. And it's been a while. Last month, we were talking about soups, and we also were talking about just how to get leafy greens into your everyday meals and talking about picky eaters. And now what I'm excited about, because I know this is one of your specialties, and this is one of our Get Your Greens challenge for the Planted membership is salad dressings, which is something I know that you know near and dear. And I would love to just talk to you tonight about, how we think about dressings. Foundationally, how do you think about the structure of that? What can you do with that in terms of herbs and greens? And I want you to realize that I am probably like most of our members. I do not buy dressings in the store. I know enough not to do that, but I am the boring dressing person. I do my oil and my vinegar. And even then I have to Google what the right ratio is before I do it. And I do salt and pepper. And then I'm kind of like, maybe lemon. And I don't know after that. So this is why I'm excited about this. I want to have more confidence around it. So let's talk the basics, how people should think about it.
Okay. Well, I can't live without dressings. I mean, to me, it's just, that's what I look forward to. And I look forward to it from the point of all the different flavors so that I don't want to get bored. So, and I tend to, the way that I approach it is, okay, I know I have certain culinary areas that I really enjoy. So I love Italian food. I love French food. I love Japanese food. I love Chinese food. I love a lot of ethnic food, Indian food. So I approach them from that standpoint. So one of the dressings that we're going to do a video, I sent you the recipe already, but it's for this, we were testing out the fire cider.
Yep. Which is going into the box this month. Yes.
Right. And I created a dressing for the fire cider. And I decided to do an Asian dressing. The reason is there was ginger in there. So I built out the dressing, and I love all different Asian dressings because there are so many flavors you can do. Mm-hmm. So I think in terms of different culinary styles, Italian, and then those styles tell me what herbs to use. Okay. So let's say my Italian, I'm going to use things like oregano. I'm going to use my basil. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. My oregano, my basil, maybe a little rosemary, little bits of each one. And I love them fresh.
Can you put them together? Can you put them together, or do you separate them? Put them together?
No, I put them together. And so a lot of times there's one photo that you have that I sent for the dressings. That all my bottles of dressings.
Yes.
And when you look up close, there is tons of stuff in there. It's not just like oil and vinegar. There's all my fresh herbs in there and fresh vegetables. So a lot of times I'll use shallots, I'll use red pepper chopped up, or cilantro or parsley. And those are all in, sometimes even celery, little teeny, tiny pieces chopped up, actually in the dressing, as well as in the salad itself. So you get a double hit.
Now, let me ask you a question real quick about that. So how long does the herbs, especially the leafy greens that you're putting there, do they stay fresh? Like, does the vinegar sort of, marinate? How does that work?
Yeah, I make enough dressing to last me for a couple of days.
Okay.
Also made, when I worked as a private chef, because we were serving so many people, I would make quarts of dressing. So they will stay, I would say, up to a week.
About a week. Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
And how do you go? Now, I know we did a cooking class on this back, I want to say in November. And are there basic fundamentals of, before you add your herbs and your other vegetables in there? How do we think about that?
Okay, so the way I think about my fundamentals a couple of things.
Okay.
Obviously, you have an oil of some sort.
Okay.
You have an acid. I'm
Mhm.
going to call it acids. Falls into acids. It's all your vinegars.
Okay.
It's lemon, your lime, your oranges, anything that's acidic
Mhm.
that you use in combination with your oil.
Okay.
And then you have two additional things. You have salt,
Okay.
and you have many times a sweetener.
Okay.
Now, you'll not have a sweetener, but a lot of times you will. In my Asian dressings, I love to have a little bit of sweetness. There and also this is, I'm going to talk in general for marinades as well.
Okay.
But marinades usually you're doing different things. So tonight we're going to focus on dressings. We'll do another time with marinades.
Yeah, we've got marinades, I think, coming up
Um,
in the summertime because that's such a great, barbecuing and marinating and such. Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of times a marinade will actually cook. That's what ceviche is.
Mm-hmm.
The citrus is actually going to cook without heat. It cooks the fish.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
I love
so
ceviche.
that's marinades. But always in your dressings, you're going to have a combination of one of those 3 or 4 things: your oil, your acid, your salt, and your sugar. So the balance, and there are ratios.
Yep.
There's actually a ratio between your acid and your oil. And usually that goes anywhere from 2 oil to
Mhm.
1 acid, or 2 or 1 to 1,
Okay.
or 3 to 1. This is where it's all about individual taste. So
Yeah.
if you do, I like to start, I don't like 3 parts oil and 1 part acid. I hate that. It's too oily for my palate.
Okay.
So I tend to work my ratio more on 1 to 1 or 2 to 1,
Okay.
depending on acid, because here's a good example. Let's take balsamic vinegar as an example. There are many different balsamics. They're all different in terms of how acidic they are and taste. So if I'm using a really sharp balsamic, I might need 2 portions of my oil to my 1 acid.
Okay.
But I'm using a gorgeous, sweet, mellow, beautiful aged balsamic that might have cherry balsamic, whatever.
Mm.
I might only need 1 to 1.
Okay.
And this
Okay.
is why I stress it over and over, and I will until people start to understand and get used to it. It's all about you tasting it for your preference.
So would you recommend that you start out 1 to 1, taste it, and then decide which way you're going?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. That is a pro tip. Okay.
Yeah. So if you know, and if you know that you don't like, and then you have to think about your individual acid,
Okay.
right?
Mhm.
And your oil. This goes for both your oil and vinegar, because some oils are more acidic than others.
Right.
This is a big topic. So
Mhm.
a beautiful oil that isn't too acidic, and you have a beautiful balsamic that's not acidic, you get a blend that is just beyond. And that, when you get those 2 top ingredients, sometimes you don't need anything else. So
Mhm.
that in a restaurant where, if it's a really high-end restaurant, and I mean the highest of the high, and they give you your bread with a beautiful oil and a balsamic, they know that those 2, they don't need anything else.
Yeah.
That's pure heaven right there. That's as good as it gets. But if you don't have that, then you have all these other helpers to make your dressing delicious. So, because a lot of times I don't want to spend $24 on a bottle of vinegar.
Mhm. Right. Or you just
I
don't,
mean,
you don't have your high-end one. You've got to use what you've got. Yeah.
Right. So then you have your salt.
Okay.
And the thing in general about salt, and I, of course, only use really beautiful salt. So whether it's my Himalayan or my Celtic salt or whatever, and there's so many flavored salts. So it's a whole world of salts. And I love fresh ground pepper. And there's a million peppers out there. So, you're dealing with what I call them flavor bombs. On today.
Right.
So, but the thing that you know is understanding your acids, because for some people, they can't take a lot of lemon, but they can take a lot of balsamic. A lot of people can't handle balsamic or lemon, and they use apple cider vinegar. So you have to understand your own palate, what you like, and go from there.
Well, and I'm glad you just mentioned that real quick about the balsamic. What's interesting is like, this is just a personal story here. I think about my mom, and she cannot have, she loves balsamic vinegar, but she's now found that she can't, it's too strong. And it actually, kind of almost creates ulcers in your mouth, right? It's too strong. And so if that's the case for people, which I think is the case for a lot of people, we're just sensitive to that. What would you recommend they have instead?
Well, I think that, first of all, that tells a lot about the quality of the balsamic vinegar they're using. That's a balsamic, because there are some balsamics out there that are so smooth, you would never have any. They're so smooth. It's like you could drink it. It's almost like a syrup. You could drink it. That's how smooth it is. So it's really the quality of the balsamic. Usually those are your more expensive balsamics.
Right. Okay. And
so I use that for an everyday. What I do is I actually mix and I just sent the video for my everyday dressing.
Excellent. I can't wait to share that with everyone. Yeah.
And not when I show you how I do it in my bowl, because I'm not using recipe. I have my ingredients, but I know how much to pour to start, and then I can adjust. So you'll see that. But I use 2 vinegars. I use a balsamic and I use apple cider vinegar.
Okay. And apple cider vinegar, of course, that's the one you always hear about. It's just it's very healthy for you, right? I mean, it's anti-inflammatory, or there's something in the
it helps the system alkalize, but it can be very sharp.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So with apple cider vinegar, a lot of the times I will make sure that there are ingredients in my salad that help absorb some of that sharpness. So like, I generally always have either brown rice, farro, avocado really helps to cut it. My nutritionist cuts it. So that's why I use my 2 different vinegars. In my basic everyday dressing, I use a little apple cider and a little balsamic.
Okay. And I imagine I can see why you pick balsamic, because it is a little bit stronger. So it probably helps overpower the apple cider. Is that part of why you?
Right. Yeah. It overpowers, and yet it's not too acidic.
Right.
Yeah. And now then I'm adding things into my salads, because I want to have things in there that can also absorb that acidity. Okay. Like the avocado. Is the avocado. It is some sort of bean, legume, or grain, really beautiful grain like farro or brown rice. Or wheat, a lot of people don't eat wheat berries, but some people do. But whatever it is, I love farro. Is amazing. So you add those in. And then a lot of times, if I really want to have a touch of sweetness, I'll add either a touch of maple syrup or a touch of honey. And I take my honey, I heat my pan first a little tiny bit. And then not while it's on the burner, while it's off the burner, in the warm pan, and just heat it up real fast so it melts, and I can get that into my dressing.
Okay. So you do that with the maple syrup or the honey, both of those?
No, you don't need to do it with the syrup because it's already syrup and it'll integrate. Sometimes a raw honey may be solid.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
So you need to melt it. So there's two ways you can melt it down. One is in a hot pan or in the
Okay.
glass jar. You can do it two different ways. You can take a jar of honey, but that takes longer, and put it in a boiling water
Yep.
in the boil, and it starts to melt. It takes forever. I can't be bothered.
I used to heat up baby bottles that way. It does take forever. I remember that. Yes.
I don't use microwave oven, so I don't do
Right.
that. So what I do is I heat up my pan first,
Okay.
and then I take it off the burner.
Okay.
Then I add my honey and it melts down, and I move it around like that. And it
Right.
heats, becomes liquid real fast without heating it overly,
Okay.
without-
Okay. Oh, nice.
So now the other way you can do it is this. Whatever the acid is you're using,
Mhm.
acid will break down the honey easier and make it liquidy. So I will sometimes in a separate bowl take some vinegar
Okay.
and add to that and just work it until
Into
it
the
just,
honey.
then I can use that honey vinegar mixture in with my dressing.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I've never think through that. All right.
Now that's if you're doing your dressing by hand, which most of the time I do, but there are certain dressings I will do in my Vitamix.
Oh, okay.
And that way you can throw your honey in and it will integrate no problem.
Right. Right. Now, when would you use a Vitamix for a dressing? I have so many questions, and I know we're short on time, but I'm
I know.
I'm trying to hold back my questions. So yeah, why would you use a Vitamix? What's an example there?
I'll use my Vitamix if I'm in a hurry, or a lot of times I will want certain things blended so it's smooth, perfectly smooth. So
Okay.
I like, and certain dressings require that if you want a smooth dressing. And then sometimes I will make a smooth base with chunks of vegetables chopped up in it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay.
Or sometimes I want just a chunky dressing. And so maybe what I'll do is quickly take certain things, throw them in my Vitamix, do it real fast and add it to my bowl and use that. So there's many
This
different
is
things.
Interesting.
is-
Okay. I am
A 3-month course on nothing but dressings.
dressings. Oh my gosh. And you're trying to put it all out here in like in 30 minutes. Well, and what's really interesting, I'm just noticing themes. This is what I love about our Get Your Greens challenge, because, we switch to different types of recipes and meals and, kind of categories, if you will. And I'm noticing, like when we did soups, we talked about you can use the Vitamix to get a nice, smooth, creamy soup, or you can have it be a chunky soup. It really is a preference. Like we talked about that. I mean, it's interesting how I'm seeing this theme, and I would never have thought to use that same theme in a dressing. Fascinating. Okay.
And you same theme in your marinades.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and many things. Because what does it come down to? We're talking about texture.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So what do we have? We in the vegetable kingdom, we either have smooth or chunky or both.
Okay.
That's why it's a recurring theme. How do you want to take that thing you're growing? Do you want that in its whole form? Do you want it chopped up? Do you want it mashed with a mortar and pestle? Do you want that in your Cuisinart? Do you want that in your Vitamix?
Okay, this is interesting. I have to interrupt for a second and tell you this one. So, this is kind of part of my story in terms of why am I so into this and why am I trying to bring this to everybody. Years ago, when I had some issues with my whole system, my digestive system. And one of my friends who was a nutritionist had said to me, Christy, you have to get greens and to get that into your body, you need to get a Vitamix, because your body is your intestines, your digestive system is not really absorbing that, because it's just, I had to rebuild it. And so I actually had to use a Vitamix. I would put my vegetables in the Vitamix, or I would, stir fry them, but mostly I had to put them in a Vitamix and, kind of chop them up so that my body could bring in the nutrients that were in those leafy greens. I think it's fascinating. That's kind of what you're doing in a dressing to a certain extent, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that Vitamix, I mean, you have a video. I don't know if we have shown it yet, but I talk about three main pieces of equipment.
Yes.
And that's the Vitamix, the wearing food processor are my two. I can't live without those two pieces of equipment.
Yeah.
I just can't.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that video you did, because you're absolutely right. And it kind of also too, it just makes things so much easier, right? I mean, when you don't have the, especially, the Cuisinart, I mean, otherwise you're just chopping and, it just takes so much more time.
Yeah. And again, that piece of equipment allows you to do so many things. And again, it comes down to different textures that you can get. Certain things I really love with hand chopping. But other things I really want the uniformity of the Cuisinart or the food processor. So, this is having beautiful choices gives you the ability as a culinary artist to create things that not only taste good, but they look beautiful, because we do eat.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And I would say too, because then I have one more thing I want to ask before we leave here, a couple things, but last time we talked about kind of the picky eater issue with kids and things like that. And this is another way, honestly, there was a book back in the day, Jerry Seinfeld's, is that right? Jerry Seinfeld's wife, I think, had this book. And this was basically taking all your leafy greens, put them in the Vitamix, blend them, and that way you get all this, all your leafy greens and your beets and all your healthy vegetables into your kids by hiding, by basically, blending it and then freezing it if you weren't using it, and you would add that into other food. It was very funny. That was her whole book was on that. But in a way, that's kind of what you're presenting here. So it's interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
and each person has a different relationship to vegetables and green. And you have to look at, okay, where am I with this? And then depending on where you're at, then we can work on, okay, how can I now get you to the next level? In terms of, because it's all about taste. At the end of the day, we know they're nutritious. We don't even have to talk about the nutritious aspect of any of this stuff. All we have to talk about is really, how can we make it taste good for you?
Yes. I love that you just said that. I love that you just said that, because you're right. I mean, we're beating that over like a dead horse. Like, yes, we all know they're nutritious, but my son won't eat them, or I don't like the taste. Well, like, okay, let's figure out how to dress that up a little bit.
Dress it up sometimes a lot.
Yes. Yes. Now I have a question about mustards, because I think we did a recipe one time before where you had asked, how do you think about different types of mustard? Where does it fit in those fundamentals? Is it?
Well, we're going to do one of the dressings that I'm going to do.
Okay.
Because most people love Caesar salads, right?
Yes. Love Caesar. Oh, you're going to do one. I'm so excited.
We're going to do a video of me making a Caesar salad. And that's the classic where you can put Dijon mustard. But there's so many, first of all, mustard is so healthy for you. Whether it's seeds or the greens. So again, you don't have to overdo anything, but a little touch of mustard in a dressing, and you've got your beautiful German mustards, your Dijons, you've got sweet mustards, it's endless, your mustard. So that is a definite ingredient that you can add in to your repertoire. So I'm going to add it in a very basic one that most people love, which is a Caesar salad dressing, and we're going to make that.
I love that, because we're grown romaine. Everybody's grown romaine, so this is wonderful. We'll have the Caesar salad with the romaine leaves. I love. Yeah. Now, okay, to close this out, I want to come full circle, because when we first started out, you started talking about, you love to look at the dressings in terms of how can you dress those up with going with different kind of styles, right? Like, are we going to go Mediterranean? Right. Are we going to go more with an Asian influence? So what are just, if I wanted to go Asian influence versus Mediterranean, like what are some of the basics I need to think about?
Okay, so your Mediterranean's going to be all your oregano, your thyme, your rosemary, your sage, all of those, even your lemon. But then if you go to your Asian, you're talking about things like cilantro with ginger and your green onions and scallion, your
Okay.
chives and those.
And your apple cider vinegars, is that kind of where you're bringing that vinegar in
not
there? No?
Asian.
Okay.
Not with your Asian, no. Your vinegar with your Asian is going to be rice vinegar.
Oh, of course. Of course.
And
Okay. Okay.
and you're going to use a beautiful either toasted sesame oil, which is my favorite, but if you're at the top of the health spectrum, you're going to use a raw, unfiltered sesame oil. But I love a toasted sesame oil, a gorgeous sesame oil.
Yeah, oh, so good.
Going to add things like, then you've got other things that you can add, which is your sesame seeds, your sesame tahini, or your misos, beautiful miso dressings that are Asian, so that's in Asian, and your cilantro in there. Then, and also in your Italian, you're going to use your parsleys, your beautiful parsleys with all of your herbs. Then if you go into your French, you're going to use your delicate thyme, make a beautiful lemon thyme with some lemon balm in there.
Lemon balm. Your lemon balm, yes.
Yeah, and some fresh mint with, with beautiful lemon or citrus, any of your citrus. Take some beautiful mandarins and squeeze your right now you get mandarins for next to nothing, and just juice them and make a beautiful dressings with your, mint and your mandarin oranges. Oh my God.
I'm going to try that this weekend. Okay. Because I've done these other ones you're talking about, but this is interesting. So I'm going to do a mint with a mandarin, and then I'm just going to get just kind of an oil. I'm just going to get a basic olive oil. Is that what you're thinking there?
Olive oil would be beautiful.
Okay. Okay.
But then, down the line, you're going to start to get into things like, there's pumpkin oil. Pumpkin oil I have used I had this one particular salt when I worked in this restaurant that we had. I haven't been able to get it again. All I used in my dressing was pumpkin oil and this salt.
Wow.
It was the most pumpkin amazing oil. Flavor.
Oh, I have never. Oil. Where do I get pumpkin oil?
You would have to, I think Spectrum is the company that makes a beautiful raw pumpkin oil.
Okay.
You'll die. You'll just die. Macadamia oil. There's all your seed oils, but pumpkin oil is one of my favorites.
Wow, I've never even heard of it. Okay, I'm gonna search that. I'm gonna go online and see if I can find it, because I think I'm gonna have to buy it online. But okay, I love that. So I can do a mint, a lemon balm, some mandarin, use an olive oil. And what kind of vinegar would you recommend for something like that?
That sometimes because you're using mandarin oranges and you don't want to overpower that.
Right.
So sometimes you can use almost just a plain white vinegar.
White vinegar.
Or a white sherry, a white wine vinegar.
Okay. Okay.
I think
that's great. Okay, I'm getting good at this. I was going to recommend. I'm like, I bet you I would do white wine vinegar. Did our internet just stop? I think we might have stopped. Okay. Well, I think we're going to have to stop because it looks like the internet just faded out. But that was actually perfect timing that it did it now, because we are at the end. So thank you very much, Robin. And what is one thing that everybody, especially if you're a Planted Places member, that you want to be on the lookout for is we are going to be posting all these wonderful dressing recipes that Robin is talking about. We'll post some too, just in the general audience for people to see, because they're amazing. I think especially that Caesar one. I think everybody wants a homemade Caesar dressing. So, I was just saying, Robin, that it was actually good news that the internet held out until that moment, because we were finishing up anyways, but I can't wait to get the recipes and post them for our Planted members, but also too, I want to grab some of those and just post them for just everyone else too, because we can't hide all these secrets. Oh my gosh, they're just too good to not share. So wonderful. Thank you so much, Robin. Robin, I think that your audio is off there. You gotta love our technology these days.
Here we go.
There you go. You're back.
All
Well,
right.
thank you so
Yes.
much. And any last parting comments you want to make there? I think this is wonderful. We learned a lot.
Look, I think that the most important thing is to just experiment and have fun and really get your taste buds activated so that you can really tune into the different tastes and flavors, because once you start to really taste things, you're going to then start to instinctively think, wow, I think this would be good with this, and try it. And that's what cooking is. It's experimenting. So, and
Right.
have fun. But
Excellent.
yeah, and at some point we may offer down the line, maybe a 3 or 4 session course where we do different dressings, and actually I'll shoot videos with the instructions.
Great idea.
We'll figure it out. We'll figure
I think
it
that's a
out.
great idea because I feel like dressings and marinades. I can't wait for when we talk about marinades because they really can transform the most boring of food. So, exactly. All right. Well, thank you so much, Robin. Always a
You're
pleasure. All right. You take
All
care.
right.
Okay.
You too.
Bye, everyone. Okay.
There we go.